Hey everyone, and welcome back. So now that you're somewhat familiar with the different elements of Photoshop's workspace, how do you actually create something? Well, just like in most applications which allows for file creation, the File menu is your best bet. Now the first option, New, will help us create a new document. Now this can also be triggered with a shortcut. You can see that to the right of the New option. Command-N on the Mac or Control-N on Windows. And once you select this option, the new dialog box will be presented to you. Let's go through some of the settings that are available to you in this dialog. The first option right at the top allows you to name your document right from the get-go. While it's not mandatory that you name your document when you're creating it, it's always a good idea to keep your documents nice and organized. Now when you do go ahead and save your document, you will be given the opportunity to rename it or name it for the first time if you chose to leave it as untitled. Right below we have our preset options. Now, Photoshop comes with some really nice common document presets, and if you're not sure what size your specific document should be, you may want to check out the presets first. You have presets available to you such as US paper, international paper, photography presets, web, mobile, and film and video. And for example, if you're going to be working on a photography project, selecting photo from the drop-down menu will enable a secondary drop-down. Now this menu will show you the most common photo sizes and display the dimensions in inches, which is standard in the photo world. But of course, if you'd rather see your size in pixels or even centimeters, you can change it to one of the many units that Photoshop supports by clicking on the current unit to the right of the width and height box, and then you can choose from pixels, inches, centimeters, millimeters, points, picas, or columns. Now the next option confuses a lot of people, resolution. A lot of beginners have no idea what this option is and what it should be set to. Here's a good rule of thumb. If you're working on a document for the web, such as an email or something you're going to be posting on Facebook, the standard resolution is 72 pixels per inch. Now if you're running Photoshop on a high DPI or Retina display computer, it may default to 143. But right now it's set to 300, so what gives? Well, resolution controls how dense the pixels are on your document. And if you're working on a document which is only going to be in the digital world, you can safely leave it at 72 or 143. However, for print jobs or photography, bigger is better. The more pixels you can squeeze onto that piece of paper when you're printing it, the higher quality the image will turn out. Typically, a resolution of around 200 to 300 pixels per inch will be standard for print, but depending on your client or the printer, you may have to go even higher than that. So if you're designing for a client, definitely ask them what they need the resolution to be. The next option is color mode. Now if you're designing for the web, 95% of the time you're going to be working in RGB color mode, red, green, blue. This is standard for digital design. Now if you're venturing into designing for print, which honestly should be using either Illustrator or InDesign for that, but sometimes you will use Photoshop, you may find yourself switching over to CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. As these are the colors that are used by printers, what you see on your screen is pretty much what you're going to get when you print, so it's much more accurate if you're working for something that's going to eventually be printed. Now as a beginner, we're not going to really go too much into CMYK, we're mostly going to be sticking with RGB until you get the hang of things. Now the next option down is background contents. Basically, do you want your document to start with a white background, black, or transparent? Now it's good to note that this option, as well as most of the options in this dialog box, are not permanent. If you start with a white background and decide you want black later on, or pink or blue or a gradiented background, you can very easily make that change once you're working in that document. Same thing goes with the size of the image to an extent. You can always change the size of the image later on, but you may find yourself with a little bit of pixelation or distortion if you try and increase the image at a later point. And finally, Photoshop gives you the option of saving a preset. If you find yourself using a specific size document for many of your projects, Photoshop will allow you to save that as a preset. Now once you've gone ahead and filled in all the values for your document, clicking on the Save Preset button to the right of this window will open up the New Document Preset dialog. Go ahead and enter a name for your preset, check on all the values that you want saved, and then press OK. Now in the future, under that preset drop-down menu I showed you earlier, that preset is going to be available to you. So that's an overview of how to create a document fresh in Photoshop. In the coming videos, you're going to learn how to handle tools, layers, and much more. Stay tuned.